Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Not too long ago, somebody pointed out to me in the comments that there are a couple of jargon words that we're using frequently, both me in the videos and in the comment section. And they were asking, what does that actually mean? Can you explain that a little bit? And I realized, well, as is always the case when you're spending a lot of time in something, you tend to pick up the terms that are being used around in any kind of area or community or whatever. For example, me, I personally watch say flambas and jingles quite a bit, or other people who are streaming and recording World of Warships PC content, and I pick up the language, right? It's just something that happens, and then tend to use these things again. So in order to, well, we're not doing that to try and sound special or anything. It's just really terms that you pick up. So I've got a little note here. I usually don't make notes for my videos, but this one I actually have one because there are a couple of terms that I just wanted to go through and explain for everybody so that people actually understand what I'm talking about. I figured the first thing I should probably mention, because that's just something that I've never actually mentioned anywhere, is the hull classification. Now, when we're in World of Warships, we're using the American hull classification system, and the American hull classification system basically has 4 categories: destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and carriers. By coincidence, the destroyers, we're using the DD abbreviation, and there's a DE for escort destroyers, but that's not something we usually come up with. So DD is usually a destroyer. Now, cruisers are actually the main reason. Actually, there might just be 3, because I think a CV is a cruiser. Yes, the CV is a cruiser. Sorry, so there's probably just 3 of them. So cruisers were the main reason that they started with the 2-letter classification system of things, because there's the CA for just cruiser. I think it started from armored cruiser, but please don't quote me on that. There's the CL for light cruiser, and there's actually the CV. And I don't think that means carrier vessel, because I've heard that being mentioned somewhere, and I looked that up a long time ago. I think it comes from the French volet for flying. That's where the V comes from. And there's the BB for battleships. Now, this is an old classification system, but at the time of the Second World War, generally these were the classifications being used. There, especially for cruisers, there are more subclasses. There are, I think the Atlanta is officially a CLAA for anti-aircraft light cruiser or something like that. But that's, generally in warships we're using these 4: DD for destroyers, CA or CL, 4 or 5, CA or CL for cruisers, BBs for battleships, and CVs for carriers. Now, the next thing somebody was asking was, what's bow tanking? Now, in World of Warships PC, there is a thing that armor angles, in terms of impact angles, make a difference. So different angles towards your armor give you different effective armor protection, just because geometrically there's more armor to go through. And there are certain mechanics for overmatching, where a shell is guaranteed not to bounce, but will actually always penetrate. And it's a lot more complicated, but generally the idea is that if you're putting your nose into a certain angle, that will, as much as possible, trigger the bounce mechanics, that the shells that hit you either don't deal any damage, or because they just bounce off harmlessly, or mostly bounce off. Now, in Warships Blitz, we don't have those. But when we're talking about, so it'll make more sense to actually talk about bow in at this scenario. So why would you, like, let's say you're in a battleship, why would you go bow in with the ship? Well, if you're broadsiding like that, and your shells come raining down on you, most shells have a bit of a dispersion in that they're not all landing on the same spot, right? So you'll see, because they're fired from a ship from along the whole length of the ship. So they're not all going to land on the same spot. They'll land in a bit of a line or some sort of oblong area. Now, if you're broadsiding, there's a much better chance that somebody's going to hit you than if you're putting your bow in. Because then a couple of shells are pretty much guaranteed to land outside unless you're at point blank range. And there's less chance that you're hitting. Also, this is my personal theory. This is not something that's been confirmed, but I'm relatively certain that there are armor zones in Warships Blitz. And actually, this was part of the, I think, of the Nelson ad that Wargaming themselves said for Blitz, that the Nelson allows you to point the most heavily armored part of the ship towards the enemy, which means that there is a more heavily armored part of the ship and there are less heavily armored parts of the ships. So for example, turret fronts are, at least historically, are generally extremely well armored. So by pointing the nose towards the enemy, in a battleship, for example, you can take a defensive stance such that you minimize the amount of damage that you're taking, and you're basically holding a position. You're not going to deal a lot of damage because your guns are, well, you only get 2 guns pointing that way because the other 2 are in the rear and you can't shoot through your own ship. But so you only get 50% of your guns to bear at best, but you'll be able to hold a position much longer than if you're broadsiding, because if you're broadsiding, you're much easier to hit. So like going bow in is generally a good idea when, in a battleship at least, what I'm doing when I have to hold a position and wait for my team to exploit that by shooting the enemies in the broadside. Or I'm just generally trying to, like, I know I can't win this fight, so I'm trying to draw as much fire as I can, because when they're shooting me, they're not shooting my teammates, and survive as long as I can to give my teammates time to do something useful. Other kinds of ships where you would want to do that is, for example, there's too many ships here, something like this, right? Des Moines, a cruiser, which if you're facing a battleship, you don't want to be broadsiding because you're going to have to dodge shells and move relatively quickly. So the alternative to that is you're going bow in, because that makes you a lot harder to hit. And the other thing is that the enemy actually can't see which way your smoke is going. So if you look at your ship from this side, and you see like the smokestacks here in the middle, right? So when you're sailing in the game, you'll actually observe that depending on how fast you're going, your smoke, because of the wind, gets either flatter or goes straight up into the air if you're stationary. So an enemy, when they see you from the side, can actually gauge how much to lead the shots, right? If your smoke goes straight up, they know that you're stationary and they're just going to shoot you. If you are bow in, you can't see that. So a stationary cruiser bow in has the smoke going up. A stationary cruiser reversing or going forward from this perspective also has the smoke going up. So the enemy is actually going to need a ranging shot to find out how fast you're going and to find out how much they have to lead their lead their shots. And for battleships, that can be a bit of a problem, because that means they have to, if they're not aware of this, if they fire a full salvo and it all misses, then they have to wait 20 odd seconds to get to their next salvo. So this can be a relatively good tactic against battleships. Now, the other word that I have around here that was being requested was kiting. And kiting, and I think it comes from kind of like flying a kite, is usually the tactic of, well, you're in a cruiser. I mean, maybe not of one of these things. Let's look at something else. Something we call an HE spammer. So like a cruiser that's often a light cruiser that has a high rate of fire and has a good chance of setting fires. So what they're going to do is they spam, as in send a lot of HE your way and try to burn you down. Now, you can either go bow in and do it that way, but you don't have you only have, 5 guns forward on this thing, in a Duca, for example, and five guns rear. So the other thing you can do is, if you want to get all your guns to bear, you will try to sail at speed at maximum range, vary your course as much as you can, and basically being far away from a battleship allows you to dodge shots. Yeah, because you have a bit of time until the shot actually hits the water, and yeah, and you can dodge it, and at the same time you can send high explosive towards the battleship. Now, let me demonstrate what I'm talking about, what I'm trying to talk about here. All right, so plenty of battleships for us to spam. What are we playing? Cage. Okay. And yeah, one of the other terms I had on the list was YOLO. So YOLO, being internet slang for you only live once, is a term what that basically means if somebody just goes forward and, well, doesn't look back. So if I was just going to slam my my engine into forward and then would sail straight into the enemy team, I would be YOLOing. YOLOing is not usually something you want to do. If you have nothing to lose, then you might as well do it and do as much damage as you can while you're at it. But it is generally not something that you necessarily want to do. Now, we've got 2 DDs here on the enemy team. So let's see what we can get done in terms of deflecting these. Obviously, they're in the cap. So I'm going to switch over to armor piercing for starters. We're detected. That's not the greatest thing, being in a light cruiser. And we're the closest ship to the enemy, so I'm fully expecting... Oh, Shiratsuyu, what are you doing over there? Okay, where are your torps? There are your torps. Yeah, I have Hydro, so you done goofed, buddy. That should be the end of this Shiratsuyu, if I have anything to say about this. Yep, there she goes. Okay, now it's 1 down. There's more torps coming. So over there are some battleships. We don't want to get close to these battleships because battleships hurt. So we could either go bow in, which we've discussed earlier, or we can kite. So let's see, I have a maximum range of over 12 kilometers. So I'm just trying to open up the range on this Tirpitz. And he's going to have a hard time hitting me. There's a Wichita. Okay. Yeah, and you see it's tricky for them. I can see where he's going because he's broadsiding. I see his smoke going up straight. And I see that he's stationary. So I can just... Oh, he's reversing. I can just... that's why you want to go bow in an American battleship, because it's much harder to see where you're actually going. I'm putting the ship in reverse because they're not pushing any further. And I just want to stay at maximum range as much as possible. And keep raining down some high explosive fire. Now I want to check where my team's actually going. Yeah, I'm gonna get actually accidentally hit by something that's meant for that North Carl over here. So we're just trying to stay at maximum range. We're trying not to get close to the enemy ships. Our team is a little bit out on the side here, but okay, we got a hit here. It seems to be letting that burn, so let's stick to the 1 there. I don't want to get too far out. I just want to help my teammate here, because that North Carolina seems to be so focused that he just This is what we call pulling a Notzer, by the way. So Notzer is a relatively is a known World of Warships streamer or video producer, and he is someone who is somewhat infamous for running into islands, shall I say. So pulling a Notzer is kind of a term that came about because he tends to run into islands quite a bit. Now, our kiting here, there's another fire. It's all nice and good, but we do need to actually cap this thing. So let's try to get back in there, because our team is extremely focused on the other side of the cap. And there's a destroyer somewhere in there, so let's go hunt. But yes, we do want to stay at distance. And for example, that North Carolina there. Okay, priority target, Akatsuki. But we do want to stay as much as possible at a distance. And we want to rain high explosive onto the ship. well, if we're not targeted, that's a different story. But that's generally what you would call kiting when you're sailing away from an enemy ship or sailing adjacent to an enemy ship, trying to keep up your distance and make sure that they're not actually getting in range for you. Okay, is that Akka still? We don't want to YOLO here. We're just getting close enough to get some torps away. And there are some extremely low, like that North Carolina over there is extremely low. So let's see if we can set him on fire. Okay, that one's dead. We don't want to get too close. Also, again, there's an Akatsuki over there. Where are you going, Mr. Akatsuki? Look, I'm trying to demonstrate something here. I'm trying to demonstrate kiting here, and you're not helping by being in the cup and making me shoot you. Yes, I know that there are torpedoes coming. I've seen these coming a mile away. Now, we don't want to be anywhere near that Colorado, obviously. So we're keeping our distance. But we're holding the cup right now, which is... Oh no, we're not actually. Okay. But the battle's almost over, so I just have to not die right now. And, oh yeah, actually we made it. Yes, so, in general, that's what you would call kiting. You would try to keep up your distance, try to stay away from the enemy ships, and try to rain down high explosive on them. Anyway, that was fun. We actually did pretty good. I wasn't even paying attention. What the? I mean, we didn't do a huge amount of damage. I think we just got lucky with one of the kills. Did we end up killing that low? No, he got away, didn't he? One of them got away that I wanted to kill. But we did manage to torpedo something, and we got that shared to you in the beginning, so it's all good. Anyway, yeah. So hopefully that cleared things up a little bit with the whole bow-in, kiting, YOLOing thing. If you've got any other terms that you come across that you would like me to talk about, or that you didn't get, or that maybe I'm using these terms wrong as well. So please do correct. Please do correct me in the comments, as I'm sure you will. And yeah, ask away. Don't be afraid to ask at any time. Again, I'm not even noticing that. It's just stuff I pick up from watching a lot of other YouTubers. So that's that. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.